Alright, where's that filament I needed? This is the red ABS, red PLA? No, it's not that one. But I wish I had a better way to store all this stuff than just stacking it on. Oh wait, Bob made a video. He did a thing for his Ultimaker. I'll just go watch that video. It looks exactly like something I could use. But I have some questions. I'm going to give Bob a call. Bob, yes. The turntable thing you made for your Ultimaker? Yeah, I'm going to build one of those. But I have some questions about the build specifically. I want to do it a little bit differently. You'll be right here? You live in Georgia. You're going to here.
I got here as soon as I could.
Greetings, fellow makers. Welcome down to my little prop shop. I'm Bill, and today I'm building a box for my 3D printers. I really do have a problem with 3D printing filament. It's kind of piling up everywhere. And Bob really did make a perfect solution for his 3D printer in his shop. So since Bob was going to be in Seattle anyway, it totally made sense to grab him and build a similar solution for my office. This also provided me with the perfect excuse to buy a new tool. That's right, I didn't own a table saw, believe it or not. So Bob and I jumped in the car and headed to the local store and picked up a small job site table saw. This thing was highly rated on Amazon, so I knew it would be a good saw. It's also smaller and portable. It fit in the back of my car, which is really handy. I don't exactly have the space I need for a full-size table saw, so this guy was a perfect solution. We packed it up in the car, brought it home, and took it out of the box, got it ready to go. Of course, Bob uses a table saw all the time on his channel, so he's very comfortable with it. It was great having him there for my first run at it, and Bob had some great tips for safety, which is my #1 concern with this terrifying new machine.
All right, it's a spinning blade, so the biggest thing is you want to keep every part of your body as far away from the blade as possible. So no matter how you're holding a piece of wood, you want to be as far back and your hands as far out.
So never like leaning over it.
Right, never lean over it, never put your thumbs in towards the blade. You always want to have your hands like as far out as possible.
Very good.
And the biggest thing is to never stand behind the saw directly.
Okay.
You don't want to stand right here and push something through. You want to stand off to the side as much as you possibly can. So if something does kick back, it shoots back really fast and can mess you up. Okay. So you want to make sure that your body's out of the way all the time.
Cool. Armed with a new tool and some good knowledge, we got to work. We set up the saw in my yard using some sawhorses and we got straight to work. I had a bit of a blueprint drawn up so that we could start figuring out all of the dimensions that we needed to cut down all of our 1/2-inch plywood sheets. Using the table saw, I cut out the top and sides of the box very carefully. Table saws kind of scare the crap out of me. It was really great getting my feet wet, having someone supervising me who knew what was going on. Now, some of these cuts required the miter gauge for the table saw, but I really need to build a cross-cut sled for this bad boy. That'll be a future build. I also used that miter gauge to cut out some 45-degree angled wood chunks to be used as corner supports. You'll see those later. Overall, the table saw work went really well, and I'm glad I got my feet wet with a fairly simple project like this. Now, I want to point out, like I said, table saws scare the crap out of me. That's why I haven't bought one yet. But that's no reason not to have one. It's a really valuable tool. And with this simple project, with someone helping me out, I was able to get comfortable with the machine. And now there's a whole bunch of other projects that I can pull off now that I've got the machine. It's absolutely worth investing the money into a new tool and taking the time to get to learn how to use it safely so that you unlock a whole bunch of potential for your future project builds. Speaking of, let's get to putting this box together. Most of the assembly for this box was done with wood glue and a nail gun. We also used a speed square to make sure that everything stayed perpendicular. Now, this whole process could have gone a little bit smoother, but it definitely worked out. I learned that the direction that you put the nail in matters, as they may curl upon entry to the wood. Nothing to see here.
This angle, there we go.
Also, clamping the parts beforehand can be a real benefit, especially with smaller parts like those little corner supports. We ended up having to do these a couple of times. We added some boards to the inside of each drawer area to prevent the filament spools from rolling out the back of the box. These also provided additional support for the box so that it wouldn't collapse under the weight of those 3D printers. The doors for the front of the box were made from the same 1/2-inch plywood. When we were confident that they were the correct size, they were attached to the box using some simple hinges and screws. Having a buddy to help hold the drawer proved extremely useful. Remember how confident we were about the size of the doors? Well, once we attached them, we realized that they were a little bit too big. So I took them off and ran them through the table saw again to make them slightly smaller, and then they worked just fine. To keep the doors closed, we attached magnets to the box. There's a little metal plate that goes on the door and then a magnet that gets screwed inside the box. Again, having a buddy to help here was super convenient. Now the spinning part of my box is a little bit different than Bob's. His has the whole box spin, but for mine, I just needed a part of a platform. That was cut out of a single sheet of 1/2-inch plywood. Again, we made that platform the size of my Ultimaker's base, and then we prepared it for the 12-inch Lazy Susan bearing. This meant pre-drilling holes in that platform before attaching them to the top of the box. The platform was screwed into the bearing, but I needed a way to keep the printer from sliding off. Obviously, the best way to do that was to laser cut some bumpers out of some more wood. These were screwed in at each corner of the 3D printer, providing a perfect resting place for the Ultimaker atop its spinning platform. Like I said before, my doors weren't exactly the prettiest thing. Somehow my measurements were just a little bit off, leaving some gaps around the doors. So I cut some thin strips of wood and then I glued them around the edges, covering those gaps. Not only do they make it look extra fancy, but they hide all of my terrible crimes. Something else this box needed was a way to hold one spool of filament for my Dremel 3D printer. So I made my own spool holder out of some large bearings, a bolt, and some PVC pipe. This was attached to the side of the box, just under where the Dremel would rest. The very last touch was to add some drawer pulls so that I could actually open those drawers. These were made from assorted resin cast pieces that I had lying around, because I keep all of my trash. With the box all finished, it was given a place of honor in my office. For my 3D printers, I have an uninterruptible power supply, and that fellow was designed to fit right in the back of this box so that I wouldn't have to see it. Also, in the back of the box, I put that big old power brick for the Ultimaker. Both printers were loaded on top of the box, and then I filled the drawers with all of my assorted filament, clearing off a significant amount of shelf and desk space by putting all of that material under the printers. Being able to spin that Ultimaker around to change out the filament is a huge benefit, and the spinning platform actually doesn't affect the print at all during operation, which is great. This was a really super fun build, and it is incredibly useful to have that thing to organize all of my filament and 3D printers. It was, of course, a pleasure and an honor working alongside Bob. If you haven't already, you really ought to go over and subscribe to his channel. He's an awesome guy. He does really great videos. He makes all kinds of really great stuff. In fact, while he was here, we life cast his head, and he's gonna have that video up on his channel. You should go watch that because it was really fun. Hey, have you guys tackled any new tools or techniques? Have you overcome any terror that you have of spinning blades? Please let me know in the comments down below. I try and get back to all of you guys, and I love getting your feedback. Thank you so much for checking out the videos. We'll be back again next week with more prop and costume making goodness, so I will see you then. So it's always like this in Seattle, always. Super sunny, warm out.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. As far as you know.
I don't think you're telling the truth.
Know that Bob picked out this wood, so if anything goes wrong, it's his fault.
Before you put those in, test to make sure they're cool. That doesn't make any sense, because